Hello, this is Mark Koep with CampgroundViews.com here at Ruby's Inn in Bryce Canyon National Park with Cary Deccio. Cary, it's great to see you.
You too. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so the whole purpose of these is to help other park owners learn from, interact with other park operators, and how to operate their parks better and provide a better experience. Our goal is to make camping amazing. So your park has a very unique history, and I think they'll love to hear it. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Ruby's Inn?
Absolutely, Mark. Ruby's Inn has been around since 1916. Reuben Syret, is my wife's great-grandfather, and he came to this area in 1916, and he was a homesteader and a rancher, and he was homesteading out in this area, and someone said, hey, why don't you go check out the big hole in the ground over here? Because he didn't even know Bryce Canyon was here.
So when he came here, he didn't know it existed?
No, he didn't know it. And because he came from west of here.
Okay.
And just back then, it wasn't very widely known. So he goes and looks at Bryce Canyon, and he was very impressed, and he thought, hey, other people need to see this, other people need to experience this. So he built a tourist rest right on the rim of Bryce Canyon, which currently, it's not there anymore, but it would have been about where the lodge is now.
Okay.
And so he built that tourist rest, and a few years later, Bryce Canyon was turned into a national monument and then a national park. And when they did that, he didn't own the land, so they asked him to leave. He came back here where he homesteaded, and he built Ruby's Inn. And Ruby's Inn has been around ever since that time. The campground hasn't been around as long. It used to be back more by the little pond or lake that we have here. Okay. But then in the 80s, they decided to move it over to this location where they had a little more room and built it up kind of piece by piece. And so we've been here since that point, and of course before in a different location. But it's been here for quite a few years, and that's due to my in-laws, my father-in-law Blaine and my mother-in-law Shauna. They kind of had the vision for building and growing the campground.
So I was going to ask that next question. So you mentioned that Ruby, he became a national park, he moved over here, set up the lodge. Did he view it more, he didn't have that vision for this big destination, he just had his idea to make some money and be a spot to stop? Was that his
Yeah, I
idea?
think so. In fact, it wasn't even really for the money. I mean, he wanted people to see it. Okay. And you can see some of the early pictures of Ruby's Inn. They have people camping in tents, pretty rudimentary, small, shower houses out back and that kind of thing. You buy a hamburger for 5 cents. He was mostly just doing it to show people. His full-time job was still ranching.
Okay.
That's what he did. And but his wisdom is there's this highway right here. This highway went right through his property, and at one time there was no road. And so he basically told the National Park Service, he said, hey, I'll give you some land right here if you put your road through. And so they did, and that was the genius, because you can't get to Bryce Canyon without going through our resort.
So then his kids built on that. They saw this as, oh my God, we have Bryce Canyon. And so for people, I mean, some of our viewers probably have an idea of what Bryce Canyon is or where it's at. Can you give them a little bit of history or a little bit of an idea of what this is and what it is as a destination to people not only in the U.S. but around the world?
Sure. Bryce Canyon is a unique, beautiful geologic formation. Bryce Canyon draws visitors from all over the world. Right now, we are 60% international to 40% domestic, and it grows every year. A few years ago, I worked here maybe 20 years ago, and at that time they had maybe 1 million visitors a year. Now we're about 3 million visitors a year to Bryce Canyon.
And for the whole season of Bryce Canyon, 60% are international, 40%?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and most of the guests, they're coming from other national parks. So they might be doing a trip where they're seeing the Grand Canyon, Zion National Park, Capitol Reef, Arches, and then they come to see us too. We're in this southwest corner of Utah, which is close to a lot of other national parks and national monuments.
So you really, that vision early on has set the stage, and it sounds like making some smart moves, giving the land away to make the road and stuff like that has really kind of got you to where we are today. And so now let's talk about where we are today. How many sites does the park currently have, and what is your main service? Is it RV sites, campsites, glamping? What is it made up of?
Well, we have about 300 sites total. That's with tent camping. I would say our main business, though, is the RV sites. That's the focus. We have teepees. We have cabins, we have group sites, so we host family reunions and things like that, and then of course full hookup RV sites. electric and water sites, and then we've got these really nice ones that we just built that are full hookups, landscape, cable TV, and everything too.
So those are those new sites out in the back, the large
Correct.
RV sites. They're massive. So one of the things that we've seen in a lot of parks is because you have a lot of space here, right? And you also have a large volume of campers coming in.
Yes.
So one of the thoughts that I had as I'm looking at the spaces, you could have easily fit 2 sites in each of one of those one sites. So you made a conscious decision not to do that. What was the thought process behind that? Was it a zoning thing, or did you actually say, no, we want to make bigger sites?
No, we decided we wanted to make bigger sites. We realized that the rigs are getting bigger and bigger. You know, people are pulling in 45-foot fifth wheels, and it's, you know, we just felt like we have to give them some space. Plus, when we landscaped, it kind of took away a little bit of the width of the sites.
Okay.
So, you know, that's part of the plan there. But yeah, they're huge. We want people to be able to get in and out easily, enjoy their time, have a lot of space to move around and set up their, you know, toys and whatever they had. So
a lot of your tourists and a lot of your guests are on this Grand Circle loop, and so Bryce Canyon is a stop on their journey. So that actually creates a problem for you in that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, in that people are only staying 1 or 2 nights.
Well, here's the interesting thing. That used to be the case.
Oh, okay.
It used to be we'd have an average of 1.5 nights. That's gone up to 3 nights. It's doubled. You'd be surprised. Now, we're not like some of the parks in Arizona, Texas, Florida, where people live or stay for long periods of time. But we're starting to get people that want a month or 2 weeks. And that's kind of changed the dynamic. So it's stretched our nightly stay average, which is surprising to me, but it's a good thing. We benefit from that just like anybody, but we get a lot of, it's interesting because we're at 8,000 feet. So we'll get a lot of people maybe coming up from Arizona or even St. George where it's really hot. And they'll say, yeah, I want to stay 2 weeks up there because it's nice and cool during the summer and pretty, and you're close to Bryce. Okay.
And you've got the multi-use trail that's new, that relatively new, right? And that allows people to get into and out of the park via foot or bike.
Correct.
And so you've got this destination. You got people coming in. So that's actually an interesting point you're bringing up about people staying longer. And I'm sure other park operators are seeing a similar trend. What are you noticing about your RV and camping audience? Has there been a change in recent years? Are you seeing the dynamics of, there's a lot of talk about millennials and about the recent baby boomers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's definitely becoming more diverse. It used to be older, mostly older. Now we have everything. I mean, we still have the baby boomers who are definitely keeping the market afloat and beyond. But you do see a lot of millennials bringing in nice rigs, Class A's, fifth wheels. It's surprising with their families and everything, and that's a good thing. We're also starting to see some movement. Of course, internationally, we get a lot of European, but we're also starting to see some movement from Asia.
Okay.
We've had Japanese, Chinese, Koreans. That's starting to happen because we're, I don't know how you'd compare us to other locations, but we are considered a destination. So people come here, they fly into gateway cities like Los Angeles or Las Vegas, and they're coming to the parks. They're coming to the national parks. And so, Asia's going to be, I think, a huge market for us at some point.
And so we were talking a little bit about that, so I'll ask 2 questions now. So the first one is, I imagine that Cruise America, if they track their vehicles, every single one of them ends up here at least once every other week.
Absolutely.
On the rental trip.
Yeah, they do.
So obviously a large portion, and we talked about that, was these international tourists.
Right.
And then you were talking a little bit deeper about how you've marketed to that audience and the steps you've gone through. Do you mind sharing that with the other parks?
Sure. Well, I think we've leveraged technology. That's the biggest thing. I like to believe, and I've kind of talked to you about this, is that we need to act more like a hotel, which means being more flexible with the way that we book people, the way that we market, having multiple channels. So we do some things that are maybe a little different than other parks. We do a lot of FITs, which we talked about, which are free independent travelers. These are folks coming over that are booked by a tour operator or a travel agency, and they've got a specific itinerary, but they're staying with us. So we're getting prepaid for those guys.
And these are all, are these primarily international travelers?
Primarily. We do have a few that are not. There's a company out of Colorado that does this as well, and they send us some domestic, but mostly it's international. Okay, France and Germany and the Netherlands.
So they're booking their trip in France, And it's a travel agency, basically.
Correct, yes.
And they're saying you're going to go here, here, here. You're going to stay here for how many nights, and you're going to go. They're really kind of setting up their itinerary.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's great because it's easy, it's simple. We give them a discounted net rate because they give us a lot of business. They help us in the shoulder seasons, which is nice. So that's one thing we've done. The other thing that we've done is we've got an online booking engine, instant booking. So through our I can give a little plug for it, I guess. We use Front Desk Anywhere, which is a hotel system, but they have a really good online booking engine, and people can go on and make the reservations online, and it's increased our bookings by at least 30%.
Wow. So just like core bookings up 30%.
Absolutely.
On that change alone.
Yeah, because we used to have the old style where we had a form that they'd fill out, and we'd have to download it, and then we'd have to assign the site and everything. We don't do that anymore. Through Front Desk Anywhere, they go on our site, they click book now, they choose what they want. You can even put add-ons in there. Oh, I want to buy some firewood in advance, and maybe I'd like a couple bags of ice, and we can have that all ready for them when they get there. But I think that has been the biggest thing that's propelled us these last few years, is having that instant access to reservations.
Interesting. And so, are you doing dynamic pricing on your sites too at all?
A little bit. I want to do more. We have done it by offering specials at different times of the year, looking at peaks and valleys, trying to take those peaks and valleys out and smooth it out. Eventually, I'm going to be able to yield more, but we don't do as much as we should or could do at this point. But I'd like to. We have different site types too, so we kind of use that as far as the demand for different types. We can charge a little more for different site types.
So if you mentioned that little add-on thing in your reservation system. I personally know that the vast majority of parks don't do that. So would you clue us in a little bit? Is it worth it? Are you making a little bit extra money on those pre-sales? Are people actually biting at that?
The jury's still out on that one, Mark. I don't know. I mean, we get a lot of, the thing is people come in, they see it, and they say, oh, I'm going to buy this and this and
when
this.
When they walk in your door.
Right, right. But there are some things that are worth it. Like if you're doing cabins, like we do have the cabins and the teepees, and we rent the pillows and blankets and the amenities, and to put those online is a good idea because then they can buy the package before they get here. And then you just have it ready to go when they check in. It's nice for the guests to say, here you are. Okay.
So now I'm going to dovetail a little bit over now. Obviously, you've got this unique location. You are a mile from the entrance gate to Bryce Canyon National Park.
Yes.
Who's your competition?
Well, we don't have a lot of competition. I mean, we do. There's another commercial park down the road that's pretty nice, and then there's a KOA in the town of Panguitch, and there's a KOA down in Bryce Valley. So those are some of our competition. But from what I've seen is they base all their pricing on us, and they kind of look to us as the leader in a lot of the things that we do. As far as size, they're not close. It's just kind of the nature of the location, as you said.
Yeah. So in addition to the location of the campground, I mean, right next door to us, we've got the Inn with an indoor pool, and it's a Best Western. You've got a restaurant, a general store.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about the overall property and everything that's kind of built into this place?
Certainly.
So you've not only got the revenue from the RV park, but you've got significant outside revenue too.
Yes, it's a full-service resort. So here at the campground, our guests have access to all the amenities of Ruby's Inn, which is another indoor pool. We have an outdoor pool and spa. They have indoor pool and spa. There's a fitness room. They have 3 restaurants. There's a steakhouse and buffet. There's a fast food restaurant. And then we have across the street, Ebenezer's Barn and Grill, which is a Western dinner show. Okay. And that'll ramp up in May.
So the peak season May through August?
Actually that goes May through middle of October.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then the other competitive advantage that we have truly is we have the Bryce Canyon National Park shuttle service that stops at our campground. And that'll start in 2 days. And that means that our guests and our campers do not have to drive into the park. They just jump on the shuttle. It takes them into the different points.
Is it a free shuttle?
It's free.
And did you have to work with the National Park Service to get that shuttle stop here?
Originally, Ruby's Inn did, yes.
Okay.
It just makes sense because most of the guests that are staying at Bryce Canyon are staying right here.
And it's a win for the National Park because they're cutting down on vehicle traffic inside there and
absolutely,
parking and all that type of stuff. So,
yes.
So you are a partner with the National Park.
We are.
You work hand in hand. Well, not hand in hand, but you interact with them on
a
regular basis.
Yes, they have a little booth here that they use. They can sell their park passes and give information on the National Park and on the shuttle service. And then Ruby's Inn has actually 3 hotels. There's Best Western Plus Ruby's Inn, Best Western Plus Bryce Canyon Grand Hotel, and the Bryce View Lodge. And they're all different price points. The Grand is a really nice high-end property. Ruby's is kind of middle of the road, and then Bryce View Lodge does a lot of bus tours.
Okay.
And then, like I said, we have the restaurants. We have a huge general store. We have a rodeo in the summertime that goes Wednesday through Saturday every week. And we have trail rides. We have ATV tours, helicopter flights, and airplane scenic tour flights. We have just about anything for this area.
So we were talking, I asked a question about competition, and you named local competition, but really, if you're on this grand circle, your competition ends up becoming Zion and Grand Canyon and some of these other destinations. So I guess this, looking towards the future, do you make more revenue off of these overnight stays, or would you prefer people stay longer? And whichever way you want to go, what do you see the future looking like for you?
Well, I think the future is growth. We need to continue to grow our inventory, which is something we're working on right now. Glamping, of course, is huge everywhere you go, and we're definitely going to go into that market as well, because we could have excess inventory right now and still sell out. I would say, as far as the length of stay, it doesn't matter to me, because I don't discount very much when people want, if they want a month stay, the only time I would do that is maybe in the shoulder season.
That's it.
So yeah, if they're paying full price, I don't care if they're staying 2 nights or 30 nights. We're still getting the revenue off that. And I know that, I need to be careful with that, because you got to yield it right. Yeah. But I'm not too worried about it, at least at this point. I mean, we've had OTAs, or online tour operators, that have approached us, such as Booking.com, that they want us to book with them, but I really have no reason to at this point.
You've already got the demand.
I do, yeah. I've got the demand. And I wouldn't say that Zion and those other national parks are really our competition. I would say they're more complementary to us.
Okay.
Because our customers are staying at their locations as well. And if it's a 2-night stay or even a 1-night stay, I'm okay with that. Because the other thing is we get lots and lots of return business, even from internationally. People will come in multiple times and say, if they're from Germany, oh, I was here, 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm back again, and I'm coming back in another 2 years. And so we can live with that. And these other parks, it's the same thing. They're doing that tour. They're going to these different parks.
So last year, RV industry sold 456,000 RVs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these are like new RVs. There's been this trend in the industry. There's 9 million RVs out there.
Right.
It's always been 9 million RVs for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think, and we've kind of seen this on our end too, is there's a change going on. Over the last 2 years, there's actually been growth in the RV industry. And actually people physically using the RVs and traveling with them.
Yes.
So based upon that, I assume you're seeing that same trend. Other than adding yield, what do you see the future holding for RV parks and campgrounds in general? What should other park operators think about as they're looking ahead at their business?
That's a great question. I think that, as you said, the trend right now, I don't know what the demographics are, but I have heard that the baby boomers are spending their money. They're not going to take it with them. They're not going to give it to their kids. They're using it for these RVs.
Dad, Mom, I want some money.
Me too, but I don't think it's going to happen. That's okay.
Make our own.
Yeah, exactly. The baby boomers are spending their money. They're buying RVs. You can tell even here in southern Utah, some of the big dealers down in St. George, they're doing very well right now. I think to capitalize on that, the inventory, to make things, I guess, really attractive for them to come up here. We're getting the word out in a lot of ways. The state of Utah, you've probably heard about this, but they did a fantastic marketing campaign called the Mighty Five, which was to market the national parks in Utah. It's been a huge success.
Okay.
And I think as far as the future goes, I would just recommend to use multiple marketing channels. Go after the FIT market, go after the off-the-road market, use your local...
Off the road is people driving down the street?
Driving down the road, yeah, or just looking for a place to stay for the weekend. Use your local community government. Like we have a travel council here that markets our area and does a really good job, has a fantastic online presence. Online is huge.
Yeah.
We still have the Good Sam book out there and some of the written publications, but online is where people are going to find you. Yeah. They're using this.
Yeah, everybody walks in with one of us, right?
Yeah, as they're driving down the road, they're going to look you up and see if you're open, if you have occupant or if you have vacancy. So, that's really I think the future is more technology. Get a good system. Get a system that you can have people book right away instead of waiting.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend.
That's awesome. I hope you found this information useful. I know I have. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And if you've enjoyed this, leave some comments. We'll respond to them, and like the video and share it. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.